right, so I'm currently on the phone with Rikiey. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Well, good afternoon. Rikiey Roc, bass player out of Minneapolis. And I suppose I should say Minnesota. There's probably more than one Minneapolis in the world.
I believe there is a Minneapolis in Kansas, yes. Awesome.
All right. So that's me, bass player out of Minneapolis. I can sing too sometimes, if you like, but that's me.
Excellent. So let's talk about, when you first found music. Tell me a bit about, what about it really attached to you and made you want to be a part of it and pursue, a life with music?
We can go all the way back to 5 years old and listening to my father sing, which is what made me want to sing. And then the Beatles came out many years later, and everybody wanted to be like the Beatles back then. I guess everybody wanted to play guitar and sing, so that's what I did. So it was, positive. It wasn't anything negative about playing. It was like, my father had a great voice. He was not a musician. He just sang in the car and in the house, and he had a really beautiful voice, and I really liked that. And then the Beatles dragged me into it. And after that, it was just one band after another, and I really enjoyed, playing. So I was a guitar player at first, and I was not very good. Let's go with I was really poor, very, very bad guitar player. And so I don't know if this happens to a lot of poor guitar players, but move into playing bass guitar. and apparently I was better at that.
Okay. So we'll take a step back, and you kind of cited that the Beatles were a huge influence on you on getting into music. Around that period of time, how did you kind of figure out how you wanted to do it? Was it just your father singing that kind of inspired you to go that route? You also mentioned that you picked up guitar and then ended on bass. Give me a bit of detail about, that process of how you figured out where you belonged.
We're talking 12 years old here. There isn't much of a process at 12 years old that I can recall, except that playing guitar is hard and I'm bad at it. And you move on, and playing bass guitar was easier for me. I shouldn't say that that's for everybody. But the process, and I'm going to relate to this to a lot of things. The process was enjoyment. If I'm not having fun at anything I'm doing, I don't do it anymore. And so I have to enjoy what I'm doing, and fun doesn't mean I have to be out doing things that are illegal or terribly adrenaline rush. They just have to be enjoyable. And so when I played guitar and couldn't do it very well, I wasn't very happy about that. So you move on to bass guitar, and I was playing that very well, and it was good. And I started to sing with a voice that imitated my father. That made me happy. That was pretty good. And so moving on, the Beatles were a pleasure to listen to at that time. They still are, but they were a pleasure to listen to when I was younger. And watching them on like the Ed Sullivan Show, they were a pleasure to watch. I enjoyed that. And I felt maybe that would be something good for me to do. I know this is the musician series, and I frequently tell people I'm an average musician. I'm a much better entertainer. And so I ended up having as much fun playing the bass guitar and singing as I did entertaining people. So, and we could compare this, bringing up my son, who's much better bass player than I am, but he would rather sit in the studio and record music and doesn't care if he plays in front of people or not. I, on the other hand, need to entertain people. I really enjoy that. So the more I entertain people, the more I enjoyed playing that music.
That makes sense. And to kind of touch base on, what you're kind of alluding to, nobody wants to do something that they don't think they're good at. And so in order for you to feel good about what you're doing, you would naturally find an instrument that you think that you're good at, that you are getting something out of. So that makes perfect sense.
Yes, agreed.
Awesome. So once you kind of got to that point where, now you're playing bass, you're practicing and everything, how did you kind of figure out what kind of band that you wanted to be in? Was that more kind of Beatles inspiration for the type of band you were looking for?
Oddly, I actually started doing country first, even though I was into the Beatles and even though I was enjoying a variety of music on the radio. My father's influence started me into the country. That's what he was into. And so I just started learning country songs. That would be my first influence. And then turning into variety music, rock music, after that. I realized that I hate to use this term, but I found out I was a musical whore, and it doesn't matter to me where a job is, and it doesn't matter to me what kind of music they want me to play. So I love playing country. I love playing heavy metal, and let's go into classic rock rather than heavy metal. Mm-hmm. And I've gone through the disco era, and I really enjoyed playing disco music. So all that kind of stuff. It was the enjoyment of playing, not the enjoyment of playing a specific type of music. So probably the only kind of music I don't like is singing or crying in your beer music. So if it's depressing, that's no fun to play. So.
All right. And so at some point, I imagine you kind of figured out where you are now. So tell me a bit about, what your current projects are and what you're excited about with them.
Well, I'm excited when anybody will give me a job. That's one of my excitements. Currently, what I do is I work in a variety band, variety cover band. Doing a lot of small town bars, VFWs, those type of areas. And I'm happy to get out and be able to work a couple nights a week, the way life is nowadays and the way the world's going. I was really used to working 5 days a week for 4 weeks a month. And that doesn't happen much anymore. Especially at my age, it gets a little harder. So basically right now doing that, people call it keeping my chops up when other things aren't coming in. So I would like to basically I'm trying to stay working as much as I can.
So would you kind of call yourself kind of a live stand-in musician? How would you kind of describe, your participation with the groups that you work with?
Well, it's nice when you can find one group that you fit in with and that can keep you working. And if that doesn't happen, well, being a stand-in, that works too. I have this I've gotten to the age and to the experience, and I hate to use that term, and I don't want any younger person to think about this, but somebody once says, "What day do you want rehearsals?" And I'll say, "What's a rehearsal?" You learn your music at home and then you play it. So I don't do much rehearsing anymore. I just show up and I either work with a band or I fill in with a band. You just mentioned that thing about rehearsal etiquette or something. I heard. And mm-hmm. So I just try and keep busy. So whether, I would prefer to work with musicians that I know get along with, everybody's on the same page. However, I can fill in with anybody. if something is needed, and I'm not really concerned about music, what type. Friend of mine just hurt two of his fingers on his left hand doing some woodworking, so he can't play bass for about 3 months. So basically, I'm learning 50 songs I don't know, so I can fill in for him in 2 weeks. So whatever it needs, whatever it takes to get out there and entertain some people.
Okay. So
That's what I'll do.
So you definitely sound like you're kind of floating between different projects, but like you said, you're learning the material on your own time, and you're ready to perform and entertain when the call comes in. You also kind of mentioned that it's nice to have a stable group to work with that you're a regular member of. What do you kind of want to see develop for yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years along these lines?
That's a great question. I would, okay. If I can give you a little background on that, quite a few years ago, I don't know if how much they do this anymore, but I was walked up to at a gig, handed a business card from CBS Records, and said, "Call this man tomorrow." Okay, so that was something I was shooting for. That would be great. Here's a record company possibly interested in what this group is doing. And we won't tell you what happened with that because it was very negative. And it was maybe 5 years after that, I'm in a different group. We're writing country western material, and we get a call from I won't mention the company, but it was a record production company out of Nashville, and they wanted one of our tunes. Not going to tell you what happened to that. It was very negative.
Okay.
And I could go into that, but I don't think that's what this podcast is into. Is that particular? These were very bad experiences, all on my part, not on CBS Records and not on this other company's part. This was bad on my part. So what I would be shooting for now is to continue, even though I write a little bit of material and may work with others who write material also. Mostly what I do is cover band stuff, but I do some writing. So in 5 to 10 years, what could see me happening? That would be great if I got a third offer from somebody.
Sure.
From I don't care whether it's a record label or whatever type of media that would be interested in what I'm doing. That would be great.
Right. Absolutely.
That would be really cool. But so long as I'm still vertical and I can still put my hands on a bass guitar fretboard and I can play, and so long as I don't lose my Shure microphones and I can still sing, I'm going to be happy. So long as I can just keep going in the business, I'm going to be happy.
Awesome. So with the amount of time that you spent working on music and the various instances that you've been in with it, what are a couple of your favorite memories that stand out to you that kind of keep you motivated, keep that happiness alive, and make you want to keep doing it?
Everything positive feeds an ego. And so anything that happens that feeds an ego. Anytime anybody comes up and say, these are simple things. Anybody comes up and says, "Man, I really loved the way you sang that song." Okay, that's something fantastic, and those things make me feel good. Some of the things were good. I went and did an audition for a one-time, very famous. The local Minnesota band, but they were internationally famous. And I actually got to do an audition with them. And I actually passed the audition. I didn't pass the audition first. I think I was third, but the first two guys didn't take the job. So I ended up getting a job with a band out of Minnesota that was famous at one time and still playing and still do play every once in a while. But that was in the early 90s, and I'm not working with them anymore. But that was really great that guys of that caliber would actually hire me. That was a wonderful feeling. a very nice feeling. Um, One of the greatest things. The other thing, when somebody from CBS hands you the card and says, "Call me in the morning," that was a great feeling. All the work we had done in that band and the original tunes we had written, somebody actually recognized them. That was a wonderful, great feeling. Feeling of accomplishment is really great.
Yeah, I bet that's a great feeling every time that it happens.
Probably to anybody, that's a great feeling. Yeah.
Right.
So those would be a couple of things, and I've experienced the other things, wannabe musician things, the things you see movies written about, too many ladies, too much alcohol, too many parties. Yeah, I got to experience some of that in my younger days, and some of those things were actually very fun. I don't want to give the wrong idea, but when you're at a party drinking too much booze and talking to different people, that's really a ball. That's a blast. And unfortunately, it may not be that healthy.
Mm-hmm.
When you're young and bulletproof, you don't think about that.
Right.
So I've experienced those things too.
So why don't you share some of your social media links where people can find you and follow you and, come see you when you're out there, doing your work?
All right. So I'm not much into technology, even though my day job was a computer technician. So if you want to find Rikiey Roc on Facebook, there's more than one of us, so make sure you spell my name clearly. The last name is ROC, not ROCK, but find me on there, and you'll be able to follow me. Otherwise, I'm not a Twitter guy. I never got into the technology. I sure wish I had something great for you on that part, but
that's okay. If you post on Facebook and people can follow you there, then they can find you. So that's great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and currently I play with the little variety group called Tailspin.
Okay.
And a bunch of us playing cover material and having a good time. So
sure.
that's they could follow that also.
Okay. So I always like to give the person that I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So just a message that you feel you resonate with that you want to put out there.
If you're really into the music business, if something happens to you in the music business and it's positive, don't wait on it. That was the part where two different record companies wanted to use me, and I waited. Hop on it. Get the experience. If something comes up, do it. Don't worry about whether it's good for you or bad for you. Obviously, if it's not healthy or anything like that, you shouldn't do that. But if opportunity comes your way, if opportunity knocks in this business, take it right away.